All right, welcome to the second episode of the D5 Football Podcast. This week we are joined by Elliott Durrell of Wrexham. You might recognise him because James last year on D3D4 did an episode with him talking about Macclesfield. This week we're going to be sort of talking a bit about Macclesfield, but also about sort of what he's been getting up to since Macclesfield and sort of a bit before that. So how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Obviously, it's been a strange time for everybody in the world. I think not just in football. But yeah, keep holding up well. You know, obviously we had the playoffs with Altrincham, which was obviously at the back end of coming out of lockdown, which was nice. But yeah, other than that, all good. And you know, obviously looking forward to the season ahead with Wrexham.
Yep, good. We're going to come and talk about Altrincham and playoffs, but first thing I might as well notice, this is a bit of a first. I don't think I've ever seen this before. You're live at a football match. I've never seen that before, but hey, listen, I think that's sort of, if there's anywhere that's better than sort of sat in your bedroom or something, I guess it's a football match.
Yeah, that's it.
First question, I guess we always ask this to everyone. How did you get into football?
So I was obviously I got involved in football at a young age. You know, it was just, I guess it's just one of those things. You know, as soon as there was anything round in front of me when I was at home or wherever I was, I just started kicking it round, and you know, obviously it just sort of snowballs from there. Really, I was at an academy from a very young age. I think I was at Shrewsbury Town when I was 5. You know, which is quite young to be taken on an academy. But like I said, you know, I had a couple of years where I was playing in the junior leagues in Shropshire. I actually played a couple of years above myself at the time. So I started earlier than, you know, a lot of my age group actually did. And then, like I say, I then went to Shrewsbury from there, and I was there for quite a few years. So it's just one of those things. I think, you know, obviously my dad played football, my granddad played football, so there's football in the family, and you know, I think it's just what every sort of young boy wants to do.
Was that something that's put on you then, sort of the bit of pressure, if you like, that sort of family's done it before, so you've got to live up to that, or is that?
Not. I don't think there's pressure. I think it's just, you know, I think you're either a football family or you're not. You know, I know families that are just not, like, have no interest in football. You know, and then I know families that is like mine. It's just football. Being one of 3 boys, there was probably every chance that my family was going to be football. But you know, I do know families that have got boys, and you know, they just have no interest in football. So it's just one of those. But in terms of pressure, I don't think there's ever been any pressure on me to, you know, to be a footballer. It's just a career that I knew I wanted to pursue as soon as I was old enough to realise you could be a footballer. That's all I wanted to be. So
Was there a point then where you sort of, perhaps a game or something, where you realised that you were better than everyone else in relative to sort of maybe something like school or something like that, where you thought this could be sort of a career or what?
Like I said, obviously I played a year above myself in the junior leagues in Shropshire when I was young, and obviously, you know, from that you can sort of take that you're probably one of the better ones in of your age. But I was always one of the littlest, and you know, even now I'm never one of the biggest on the pitch, but I was always one of the smallest lads. So I knew that, you know, if I was going to make a professional footballer, it was going to be a tough task, because obviously, you know, back when I was growing up, a lot of the top academies wanted, you know, big players. You know, I remember moving to Wolves after I left Shrewsbury, and I was a dot at Shrewsbury, but when I went to Wolves, the lads just sort of seemed to grow even more. So it was one of them. I knew that I had to obviously make up for it in other areas, if you like. And you know, obviously that's thankfully I'm technically quite good, so that sort of makes up for my lack of height.
Yeah, is that so? What you said about academies, is that, what's that sort of like? That, you know, I imagine you'll be getting you've been released, you're not getting carried on for the next year, because it is that sort of funneling where you might have, you know, at the end of the day, they can only have let's say a 20, 30 man squad, but they might have loads of sort of youth teams and stuff like that. So that funnel him and you sort of get move about through academies. So when was it then you sort of made that transition from, if you like, youth football to sort of getting chances in what we might call more first team?
So as I said, as I mentioned, I was at Shrewsbury as a young, real young boy, and then I went to Wolves. I think I was probably 11 or 12 for maybe 11 for 4 or 5 years, and then I went back to Shrewsbury because I got released from Shrewsbury for being too small, from Wolves for being too small. So I then went back to Shrewsbury. I was involved there, the youth team, till I was 16, 17, and then I got released from there because I was too small. And it was then, like you say, that's the first time you really, you feel any rejection, and you come up against rejection, which, is in any walk of life, it's not nice to be rejected. But to be rejected for something that you're not really in control of is tough. But there's, as I said, I knew that I was going to have to be sort of different to other players that I was playing with. So, I stuck at it, and I went and did a year at Hereford. So I went and played for Hereford United in their youth team. But I couldn't drive at the time, so I had to, it was, I'm, in terms of now, Hereford's 45-minute drive, but when you can't drive, it was a nightmare. I used to have to get trains, and I had to rely on my mum and dad to take me to the train station and to Hereford if they could. And it's a big commitment. They've done that for 10, 12 years. And, it was at that stage where, I had to sort of either do it myself, or I would have probably had to sort of stop playing. And I didn't want to stop playing, but so I went to Telford, to A.F.C. Telford in the youth team there. And I think I played about 4 games for their youth team in a I think it was a Midlands Floodlit League. And then straight away, within 4 games, I had the first team manager, Rob Smith and Larry Chambers. They wanted to sign me straight away on a first team contract, and then from there, it's sort of been a never look back thing, really. And I've just sort of gone on from strength to strength, and worked hard, and I am where I am now.
So you said that sort of Telford area. I think also I'm going to butcher some of these names because they're a bit different, but Rushall, Olympic, and Hednesford or Headsford. I don't know how you pronounce that. Some of these names are a bit strange to me.
Yeah.
Sort of similar to, and we did one last week, a few weeks ago with Jeff King, sort of maybe bouncing around non-league and, sort of getting your, sort of not as many teams as him, but sort of going around getting experience from different sort of managers and stuff like that. Is that something you've, was that something you really planned on sort of doing, or?
Again, when you make the step up from youth football to men's football, I guess you don't really know what to expect. So when the first time it happens to you're sort of in uncharted territories, and that happened to me after the first year I signed a contract for Telford. Obviously I was young. The best player for Telford at the time happened to be playing in my position. I didn't actually play on the wing or in the 10 then. For some reason they had me as a right back. I played like number 10 or on the wing for the Telford youth team, but when I moved into the first team, they played me right back, and like I say, the best player was the right back. So I had my opportunities were quite limited. I think I played one standout game, which was a Setanta Shield, and I think we played Solihull Moors or whatever they were called prior to that, and I scored the winner in extra time, and it was the first time I'd obviously encountered extra time, and obviously just the difference between youth football and men's football. But then from then I went to Hednesford the year after, because obviously I knew I wasn't going to get much opportunity for as long as the lad was at Telford, and I was at that stage where I wanted to play. I'd had a taster of it. I'd played a couple of games of men's football, and I knew that for the sake of my career, I needed to go and play games. So I went to Hednesford, and I was sort of ever present there for the next sort of 6 or 7 seasons, I think it was. And the Telford managers who I initially had, They actually got the Hensford job after they got sacked from Telford, and they ended up being my managers for 4 or 5 seasons. And they ended up, I ended up playing in the right position for them, and they got some real good years out of me. And like you say, it's just strange when you've never experienced flittering around between teams and new managers. It's you don't really know what to expect. But yeah, like you say, at Hensford, I had probably some of my best years. We were successful. I think we won a playoff final against FC Manchester, and I picked up a couple of accolades on the way in terms of I think I was Evo Stick Player of the Year, and I was in the Team of the Year a couple of years on the spin. So it was nice. It was, if you like, it's what they say is earning your stripes. It was never anywhere I wanted to be. I knew that I always wanted to play if it was non-league, I always wanted to play at the top tier of non-league. But obviously everybody aims for the football league. So like I say, I had some great years there, but it was. It was a club that obviously I still look out for now, results, and I always will. But I knew that I wanted to play as high as I can. So when the opportunity arose for me to move to Wrexham the first time, it was a no-brainer for me.
You said about sort of moving position and sort of that transition from mainly playing right back to sort of more attacking. What do you think would have happened, sort of a different timeline, when if you didn't make that change and you would have stayed perhaps as a right back, perhaps learning from the guy who was the best player? Or do you think maybe like having a guess, a bit of an alternate timeline, do you think? Or is that sort of too hard for you to say?
Yeah, I think that's because it was a strange one. I mean, I was always an attacking player as a young boy, and then, like I said, because I was always small, when I was at an academy, I think it was when I got released from Wolves, and I went back to Shrewsbury. The Shrewsbury youth team manager, or my under-14s manager, or whatever he was, I think it was him who moved me to right back, and he said, "You'll thank me for this when you're older. When you play for Real Madrid at right back." I thought, it's not really me at right back, but I just wanted to. At that age, it's about listening, and you sort of have to hope that the manager that you're working with sort of knows best. And obviously, I gained a lot of experience in playing at right back, but I always had that attacking eye in my game. So it was something that, as soon as I was able to make the physical step up and the physical side of things, I knew I want to be a right back. I might be a right back in a couple of years when I start to slow down and I lose half a yard, but generally, I'm an attacking player. So
yeah, you say you're just going to come on to Wrexham, but for Hensford, you had a bit of a FA Cup run, if I'm right.
Yeah, so I think it was the season. I'm pretty sure it was the season we either got promoted or my last season at Hensford. We played Crawley in I think it was the first or the second round, at Hensford at Keys Park. And like I say, we were fairly successful at Hensford. If it was, I can't quite remember whether it was the year we got promoted or it was the year after. But like I say, we had a successful squad. We had some good players. We had a good mix. We had a good combination of experienced lads that had played at a good standard in non-league, and then we'd had we got a good mix of young lads who were definitely able to make the step up, if you like. And yeah, we had a good FA Cup run, and we played Crawley, and we probably deserved something out of the game, to be fair, against Crawley. I think they scored late on, but that was probably the full-time side of things were sort of kicking in. And I think we ended up conceding a tap in with maybe 5 minutes to go. So it was tough to take, but again, it was a good experience that a lot of us lads learnt from.
And would I be correct, research hopefully correct, that you scored in that game? Was it a penalty? Would I be right? Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, so I scored a penalty. And I remember the manager saying it was one of the best penalties he's ever seen. It was. He just basically said to me, the Crawley manager said, like, fair play. It was pretty much unstoppable, which was nice. But when you've just lost a game in a game that was as big as that for us at Ensford, it was it was great to hear on a personal note, but we were just real disappointed because we all thought that we deserved something out of the game. But in football sometimes you don't always get what you deserve, so we dusted ourselves off and we went again.
I guess also that's sort of good. I don't know what league they would have been at the time. Might have been League Two. Get to test yourself against sort of a higher opposition, and that sort of matchup of non-league versus IROF and stuff like that to test yourself. And then, like you said, you went to cross the border into Wales to Wrexham. From just having a little look, sort of, seems you played a lot sort of in the first half of the season. We were there for 18 months, but your full season, you played a lot of the first half, got a lot of assists and goals, but didn't play so much in the second half. So sort of,
yeah, it was a season where a bit of a strange season, really. Like you say, I initially signed, and then the manager who signed me, he got sacked after about, I think it was about 4 weeks of me being there. So again, it was one of them. You go to a new club, and it was the first sort of time I'd gone to a new club that I didn't really know anybody. So I didn't know anybody. I was obviously making the step up from part-time to full-time, and the manager changes, and the manager that I had was quite relatable. He didn't turn pro until he was sort of my age, and I really could relate to him. And obviously then when he left, I sort of I lost my way a little bit, and I did have a knee injury there, which obviously didn't help. But then the following season, I came back and we were doing well. I think from memory, we were doing really well the first sort of half of the season. And like you say, I'd played a few. I think I probably put too much pressure on myself early doors. I didn't get a goal for probably 10 games, and the relief when I scored my first goal there was, I think everybody could sort of feel that it was getting more and more and more on top of me. But when I did score that first goal, obviously it felt like a weight was lifted, and yeah, it was just a strange sort of time, really, because we were doing well, and then something just changed, and I think we ended up just staying up. We had a great FA Trophy run, which we lost in the final at Wembley to North Ferriby. But yeah, I think the club was going through a bit of a transition, and there was a couple of lads who were coming towards the end of their career, and maybe the balance wasn't quite right between the older experienced lads and the young lads that were coming through, and yeah, for whatever reason, it just didn't quite work out for me at that time at Wrexham.
That gets said a lot is sometimes when you have sort of young and hungry lads who come up sort of like yourself and are trying to prove a point, and then you can sometimes get the ex-Football League lads who, some of them, they just want to play football at whatever level and they work hard, where some it's sort of, I'm getting a paycheck and stuff, that type of thing. That can sort of mess things up and make it hard. Then, if I'm right, moved to Tamworth, and from looking at goals, it seems you played a bit more attacking, scored a few more goals for them than sort of previously with Wrexham.
Yeah, that's it. So again, I moved to Tamworth to work with Andy Morrell, who was the manager at Wrexham, who signed me. And that was something that was important to me. I knew that I had to go and work for somebody who I could trust, and I really felt I could trust Moz. Having signed me for Wrexham and worked with him briefly. And like I say, being able to relate to him in terms of, he didn't make it till he was late, sort of mid to late 20s. That was the sort of age I was when I turned pro. So, when he spoke to me and he told me he wanted me to go and sign there, I was delighted to sign there. And like you say, I scored some goals. I think I ended up with about 14 goals that season in the Conference North, something like that, and then quite a few assists. And I think we just missed out on the playoffs. But again, it was a club that I enjoyed my time at, and it was all about experiences. But I knew that, when I signed there, I knew it was a stepping stone. I knew that having played in the National League, or the Conference Premier, I think it was called then, I knew that, that's where I wanted to be minimum. I knew that I was capable of playing at that level, and I saw Tamworth as an opportunity to get back enjoying it, to go and work for a manager who I trusted, and to get back what I do best really, which was score goals and create goals for my teammates, and thankfully I did that, and I was able to move on and step back up again.
And you did that, moving to, and this will know if the Wrexham fans moving to Chester.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a few frowns. But I think even now, when I re-signed for Wrexham, a lot of the Wrexham fans still say that I wasn't really given a fair opportunity, a fair crack at the whip at Wrexham, and you get tweets and messages from all fans wishing you well, and you get the odd fan who says, oh, you should never sign for a rival club, and it's a huge rivalry. Don't get me wrong, it is a massive rivalry, and I get that, and I've been on both sides, so I know how big it is, and I know how much both football clubs mean to both sets of fans. But again, it was about playing at that level, and I knew that I was capable of doing it, but I just had to prove to myself that I could do it. And we started the season on fire. I think at Christmas, up until Christmas, we were about 7th in the league, and ultimately we fell away. But like I said, it was about playing at that standard consistently, and I did that. I think I played all but one game in the league, or 2 games in the league. So it was good, and like I say, I took experiences from that have turned out to be invaluable.
You mentioned the derby, cross-border derby. You've played on both sides. Now, I'm not going to sort of ask you which one's better. I'm not going to, because I know there'll be lots of people watching this. They'll clip it up, and then you'll get lots of tweets, stuff like that. But playing in that is from, obviously you've played in other derbies, other club stuff like that. It's a bit of a sort of different. What's that like? Sort of being almost, what's the word? That you're playing in this derby, which sure the teams aren't Premier League or Championship, but it is one of the more famous derbies amongst sort of low league football, because it is a sort of unique situation of 2 different teams in different countries playing against each other, and there's a lot of rivalry and sort of history with that. What's that like, playing on both sides?
It was hostile. It was very hostile. Like I say, they're 2 sets of fans who are very, very passionate about their clubs, and 2 sets of fans who probably don't, how do I say it? Like 2 sets of fans who believe their clubs are in false leagues, if you like. And the clubs have both got big histories and that sort of thing, and no club has a defined right to be at any level of football, but obviously more so Wrexham for me. That the fans are frightening. I think the season that I signed for Wrexham, the first time, before I went for my first day, I did a bit of research, and I think from memory, they played in an FA Trophy game or something at Wembley, or a playoff game. They lost, and they took 20,000 to Wembley. For a non-league team to do that is ridiculous. And then I think they ended up playing at Wembley the following week as well in the trophy final. And after taking 20,000 the one game, on the back of not being promoted, I think a lot of fans would have thought, oh well, we don't have to go to this one. There's nothing riding on this one really. Yeah, it'd be great to win the trophy, but ultimately we wanted to get promoted out of the conference. But I still think they ended up taking 10,000 or something like that, and that's 10,000 people who work hard, day in, day out, and some may not earn as good a money as others, but they're willing to spend that on their passion, which is the football club, and to be able to play for a football club like that, whether albeit whether it's Chester or Wrexham, it was great. And that obviously that becomes infectious, because when you're playing in those games, you really sort of go that little bit more when you hear the fans getting behind you. And it's like I say, it was a hostile one when I first played there for Wrexham, and it was just as hostile when I played there for Chester. But I think both sets of fans realise that football's a short career, and you've got to do what you've got to do to earn a living, and ultimately try and get up the leagues, if you like, and that was obviously what I was looking at doing. So it just happened to be that I played for two clubs who have got such a rivalry.
You mentioned about how the clubs are sort of, the fans feel that they should be higher up the league. They don't really deserve, if you like, to be down there. I mean, Chester are National League North, Wrexham are obviously National League like yourself. What do you think? Both clubs are quite big. They've been, from just memory, over the past sort of 30 years in what have been now called League One or League Two at some point. Do you think that's something you can see both clubs getting back to at some point?
Yeah. I don't see any reason why not. You look at the likes of Tranmere, who did it a couple of years ago. They the year we won it for Macclesfield, they got promoted in the playoffs, and they went straight away again the following season. So it can be done. I think Luton have showed that it can be done as well. I think they dropped down after a couple of consecutive relegations, and then they bounced right back up to the Championship in super quick time. So I think it can be done. You've obviously got to have the right fundamentals in place, and you've got to obviously have the right team and the right team spirit and the right. I think the club's got to be in a certain position off the pitch. But yeah, it can definitely be done, and I think both clubs will be aiming for that in the near future. Because like I say, I think they've both obviously played at a much higher level, and I think that's where ultimately they'll be looking at getting back to as soon as possible.
And with yourself, I don't know what the exact number is, but Wrexham, it's something like 12 years consecutively in the National League or something like that. So there's that pressure, I guess, of wanting to do well.
Absolutely. I having won it with Macclesfield, I've it felt unbelievable. It was the highlight of my career. Obviously only to be top by playing in the Football League, but it was in terms of success. It's an incredible feeling winning any league, but to win the top tier of non-league, it was special. And I wouldn't have joined a football club that didn't have ambitions of doing that. And knowing Keatsy as I know Keatsy, I played with Keatsy the first time I was there. He was the captain. He led by example. He put his head on the line, his foot on the line, whatever it took. Whatever it took to win a game, he would do. And as soon as there was interest from him, I knew he'd assemble a squad that would be looking at getting out of the league, and like I say, we're looking to do that this season.
So we're going to go over Chester v Wrexham. Now Macclesfield, I'm just going to say James did do a full podcast talking about Macclesfield last year, so we're going to link that at the end, so you can. I think that's about half an hour long, so you can if you want to get a full sort of in-depth about Macclesfield and obviously everything that happened there, you can go and listen to that. We'll link that at the end. But general overview for Macclesfield, I think it'd be fair to say tough circumstances, but still managed to succeed and do well. Would that be sort of fair?
Yeah,
would you say?
yeah, nail on the head. Tough circumstances. I think those all the financial difficulties that are in now started. When we were in the middle of that season when we won the league. So it was tough, but we knew that we had a squad capable of getting promoted and winning the National League, and we knew that if we were going to start boycotting games or anything like that, it was only going to be us as a squad that it impacted. So we decided that we'll control the controllables, and we'll control what we were able to control, and that was that was stepping on the pitch every week and putting in a good performance, and we ended up just doing it for ourselves as a group of players and the fans, because it was a very much a sort of us against everybody else, if you like. It felt like that, but like I said, we knew that we had a squad that was capable of winning that league, and we went on and we did it, and we got what we deserved.
Does that sort of, if you like, the difficult circumstances, sort of the fact that there's a sort of adversity that you're struggling against with everything that goes on that other clubs looking to get promoted wouldn't have, does that sort of make you does that make team unity better, and sort of, sounds cliche, but sort of we're all in it together type of thing that would make you sort of push
Yeah,
on harder?
yeah, absolutely. We knew that we probably had one of the smallest budgets in the league that season. I think John Askey had 3 players contracted from the season before, so he sort of ripped up the team and knew he was starting again. And then obviously when all those financial things start happening, you think, is it going to happen? Are we going to be able to get over the line? But we knew that within the squad and the staff that we had, we had a spirit that it's a spirit that I've never witnessed before. Ultimately, I think we said at the beginning of the season, team spirit will probably be, if you've got a good team spirit, it's probably worth 10 or 15 points to you a season. And I think we ended up winning the league by 10 points, and that was justified at the end of that season. Because our team spirit was frightening. All the aspects were against us, and like I say, we pulled together and we got what we deserved.
And then you got promoted to League Two, and that would have been, if I'm right, your first sort of taste of fully professional football. Obviously, National League's professional, but full on, if you like, professional football, League Two, football league. What was that like?
Yeah, that was like I say, that was the pinnacle of my career. Amazing feeling. I had to wait a little bit longer than I wanted to because I picked up an injury with 3 games to go of that title winning season with Macclesfield, and I had to have 2 operations, quite a lengthy rehab. But the minute I walked out onto the pitch at MK Dons, it was a special moment for me and my family, and one that will live with me for the rest of my life.
And fair to say, it didn't go quite to plan. At least at the start, there was quite a lot of, if I remember, quite a lot of losses, maybe a few draws or whatever. But things turned around, and I think there was a managerial change, and you ended up surviving somehow, I think. And with 2, not like sort of Stevenage this season, where they've survived because of point deductions and sort of only being 1 relegation spot. You survived with 2 relegation spots. I think that's probably one of the stories of the season. I mean, it was amazing that you managed to, like I said, one of the smaller budgets in the National League, probably the smallest budget in League Two, but managed to survive.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was 15 or 17 games we didn't win for that season. So, to come from a points deficit as big as that, I think it was 12 points at one stage. To come from that sort of points deficit was probably as big as winning the National League. There was a managerial change in that, but again, we had a great spirit, we had a great team spirit, and I think we stayed up, obviously, like you say, on the final day. I scored the goal against Cambridge, and it again, I sort of said the whole way, although I was injured for the first, I don't think I played for the first 15 to 20 games, but I sort of always had a feeling that, when the team was at full tilt, and when we had everybody back from injuries, I sort of knew that we'd have enough to stay in the league, and like I say, we put a good string of results together towards the end of the season, and we ended up staying up on the last day, which was like I said, in terms of where we were, 15 games into the season, it was probably just as big an achievement as winning the National League. So
I imagine as well, I think if I'm correct, you would have relegated then 2 fairly established clubs, Yeovil and Notts County. Notts County, they had something like 130-year streak in the Football League. To relegate them, it's quite an achievement. I know it's sort of, I'm trying to think what the exact numbers are, but it's sort of like when the clubs go up from the Conference to League Two, it's very rare that they do go down. But even with all the stuff that went on in the sort of playing catch up, if you like, you said you didn't get to play for the first 15, 20 games, to then come in sort of near second half of the season and show what you can do, and doing that. And then so we go to end of 18-19 season there, and you leave the club, and dropped down to National League North with York City.
Yeah, so obviously all the financial issues that were going on at the time at Macclesfield, it was putting a lot of pressure on myself and the family, and it was not it was something that I didn't want to, I didn't want to experience that again. So I made the decision, and I took the decision to leave Macclesfield. They offered me a new deal, but the financial status they were in, I wasn't risking not being, being in that situation. So I joined York. Obviously another former football league club that, again, probably fans probably don't think they should be in that league. And I enjoyed my time there. It didn't really happen for me at York for whatever reason, but I went there because I knew the manager. I'd worked with the manager previously at Macclesfield. He was there for the short time. When I first signed there, he was there for probably 15 or so games, and he was instrumental in that season. Although he left halfway through, he really did play a big part in putting the squad together with John Askey, and I knew that the sessions that he did were good, and he had a great winning mentality. So for me, it was although it may have been a backward step, it was a step that I thought of. It may have been a case of taking 2 steps back to take a couple forward after that, but like I say, it didn't quite work out there. Didn't play as much as I liked. I stayed up there quite a lot as well, which to some players is not a problem. But for me, it was the first time I'd witnessed being away from the family. I've got 2 young kids at home, and I'm real close to. And I probably didn't adjust to that. End of January, I left York and moved back down, sort of more local to Altrincham, and I think they obviously got the best out of me.
And that'd be right. You can see that from the numbers. Like I said, York 10 games. Sorry, 1 goal. Altrincham, that's 7 games at least league. I know not other cups or playoffs or what have you, but 7 games and 6 goals. You can see there's a clear difference there. You said sometimes is that just a case of sometimes it just goes wrong? If there's a bit of luck injury for the difference, because they were the same league and sort of same position in the table.
Yeah, definitely. I think at York, York. When I first went into York, they were flying. They were flying. I think they were 10 10 games unbeaten, top of the league, and they were in a great place. And then they lost a few, and obviously then sort of feelings start to creep in. And it was a case that the gaffer at the time wanted to sort of stick with a team that had got into where they were, which was fair enough. But like I say, when I spoke to the Altrincham manager, Phil Parkinson, having played against Altrincham twice for York at York, the football that they played was for that level was frightening. I've never ever seen a team at that level in the National League North keep the ball like Altrincham did, and that suited my style of play and suited my game, perfectly. And as you say, it showed with the performances that I put in on a personal basis. But not only that, I was there for 7 games. We had a 4-month window where we did nothing, and we still ended up getting promoted. And from the minute I went in, I knew I was joining a club that had the potential to get promoted. And like I say, I think it worked perfect for both parties. I think I was the missing piece to their jigsaw puzzle, and I think the club were great with me. In terms of the football that they played was just perfect, and I felt at home straight away. And like I say, we got over the line in the playoff final, which wasn't a spectacle by any stretch, but those games are always tight. So
yeah, well, speaking of playoffs, the playoffs were a bit sort of different from normal, from what most people might be familiar with. So just to sort of explain, it was a 6-team playoff, and the sort of top 2 of the playoffs get sort of a bye to the semi-finals, if you like, and the bottom 4 of the playoffs go through. Just explaining that, just because they might think, well, why is the 3 games? If they're not too familiar with sort of National League. So then the first game in those playoffs would be against former team Chester.
Yeah. So like you say, it's a little bit different format in the National League in terms of the 6 teams. 2 teams go into a semi-final straight away, and then you have 2 knockout fixtures. And of course, it was typical that it was going to be. It was typical. I was going to play against one of my former clubs, and ended up being 2 of them. But yeah, the first one was Chester at home. Again, very strange because of the environment that we were in, and the pandemic that we'd just been through. So it was very subdued, a very different game, if you like, and the atmosphere just wasn't the same as a normal game. But I think that sort of suited us, because as I alluded on before, with Chester being a big club, and not that Altrincham aren't a big club, but Chester have a big home following. They would have taken a fair few thousand away in a playoff game as well, and I think they would have relied on the crowd a little bit more than we would. It didn't matter whether our Altrincham team played in front of 10 men or 10,000 people. They proved that in their FA Cup run. They went away just before I joined and played Portsmouth at Fratton Park, and by all accounts, I'm told they should have won that game. They lost to a last minute penalty. So it was a case of us just sort of it being like a training game, if you like, really. The atmosphere wasn't going to make any difference to us, and then we went 3-0 up. They had a man sent off, and they ended up being better with 10 men than they were with 11. And it finished 3-2. So it looks like it was a close one, and they had quite a bit of possession the last sort of 10 minutes, but in the end it was quite comfortable.
Yeah, I remember a mate of mine is a Chester fan, so and I'll be honest, I might annoy some fans, but I was rooting for Chester, and I think if I remember, went 3-0 up, if I remember, and it sort of came back and was sending off or what have you, and it's very close in the end, and then I remember my mate being gutted. And then another former team, like you said, York, 2-0. Get same sort of thing for them. It's obviously no fans there, and
same again. A big club. I imagine there'd have probably been more than 5,000 at Bootham Crescent. It was potentially the last game that they were going to play there as well, because they've got a new stadium. So that would have been packed to the rafters. It would have been full of fans. It'd have been completely different atmosphere, very hostile for us as the away team. But the fact that Altrincham went there twice in that season already and had won both games, the Cup and once in the FA Trophy, I think York were beaten that day psychologically. I just think sort of all the aspects were against them. The fact that they'd lost twice to Altrincham, there was no fans, so they weren't going to be able to sort of rely on any fans to get behind them and make it as hostile as possible for the away team. It just sort of felt that game was won before we'd even kicked the ball. And obviously that might sound wrong to say, but that I don't mean that in any disrespectful way at all. But just seeing that everything was against them. They obviously felt quite hard done by that they hadn't been promoted automatically as well, because of the points per game, the way that it was, the way the season was concluded, and like I say, we were always confident of that game, and we were quietly confident that if we beat Chester, we'd go on to get promoted, and like I said, it turned out that we did do that, but the final was obviously a little bit of a stalemate.
And like I said, well, it's another team, not a former team, but another team who are moving grounds, I think. Boston, 1-0, like I said, close game, stalemate. How did that... Sounds closer than the other ones, so a bit more nerve-wracking for you.
Yeah, sort of different, really. Boston, the game was... We were sort of going into that. I think Boston had beaten Altrincham 5-0 in the league fixture at Boston Stadium. So we sort of although we knew that we were capable of obviously winning that game, we sort of felt that we had a point to prove because obviously they'd gone there earlier in the season and got thumped 5-0. So there was a little bit of, nerves, if you like, but it was a game. They're very, very sort of physical, very in your face, very up for it. They put themselves about. They're a mobile team, and they sort of stopped our game plan, if you like, and we weren't really able to implement our style of play on the game. But it was one of those games where I knew that if we didn't concede first, we would win the game. And I remember speaking to the captain, Malty, and, we said at the end of the game, we both said, it was almost in sync. We both said we felt as long as we didn't concede first, we would win the game. And thankfully, Mooney followed in one of my not very good passes, and the keeper fumbled it, and yeah, that was the decisive goal.
Mm. And then got promoted. You would have obviously loved to have had fans there and stuff like that, but not to be. So, would you say then out of you would have had sort of promotions before, sort of Macclesfield? How do those rank then? Would you say Macclesfield promotion? How would you say?
Yeah, 100%. That's obviously the best promotion that I've had, without a doubt. Altrincham is definitely the next best promotion I've had. I've won promotion with Hensford from the Evo Stick to the National League North. That was, I was involved there for the full season, but I think I have to obviously look at the Altrincham game and the Altrincham promotion and the fact that I played such a big part in such a small space of time. That was obviously great. It was typical that the goal scoring run that was on stopped at York, which was always going to happen. We knew that, but like I say, the promotions that I've had, they're all special to me in different ways, but definitely, obviously the Macclesfield one being massive underdogs and winning it by such a big margin with some big clubs in the league that season was very special.
A little bit of just having a sort of look, the situation sort of they were in at the time, or the seasons before that, is they were National League. They got a double relegation, got back up, had a season sort of staying there, and then got promoted with you. So is that what you're aware of? Because that's sort of we see a lot of teams get promoted, relegated, then promoted. For a team, and we've seen it happen with like Chesterfield and York, where they have a double relegation, and it can take them quite a few years to get back. But that didn't seem to be an issue with Altrincham because they did 2 promotions in 3 years off the back of a double relegation.
Yeah, I think what's different is the fundamentals at the club are slightly different there. They obviously identified a manager that they saw a lot of potential in, and they've stuck with him. His style of play is, like I said, it's probably the best footballing side that I've played in terms of the way that we played at Altrincham. And like I said, it's the football that we play it was different because sometimes when you're playing a footballing side, if it's not going for you as a team when you play football, you resort to sort of going more direct. But we didn't. We stuck to it, and he encouraged that from the first whistle to the last whistle. And I think that's probably the reason why the promotions came so soon after the relegations in the respect that he knew the way he wanted to play. He built a squad that has now been together. This is probably the 4th season a lot of those players have played with each other. So not only are they a close-knit team on the pitch, but they're also a real close friendship group off the pitch, and I think that that's ultimately helped.
Was that you said? So that's a good point, sort of about how close they are, 3 or 4 seasons. That's something you're aware of then, as you're coming in as sort of the new guy, not for too long, you're only there for a few months. Does that sort of worry you, sort of that you sort of odd one out almost, if you like?
Knowing that now, I mean, I didn't really. It all happened so quick going to Altrincham, to be honest. So I didn't really know a lot about the squad or anything like that in terms of how long they've been together. But obviously, then playing in that squad, you realise how much of a close knit team they are, and how much of a close friendship group they've got. A lot of them socialise outside of football more than they do inside of football. And we used to train twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. So it was it's definitely important, and like I say, it's something that I believe will stand them in good stead this season.
And you talk about this season, which is true. You left Altrincham because you obviously they got promoted to National League and moved to Wrexham, also in the National League. Was there anything about sort of staying at Altrincham, or was that just? Was it sort of feel you make a bit of a step up almost to a bigger club, returning to Wrexham?
Obviously, I knew I was joining a huge club again, having been there before. It was a tougher decision than most people will think, in terms of, because I'd been so successful in such a short space of time. And had it have been anybody else, it would have been an even tougher decision. The fact that it was Wrexham is probably the only reason I left. When a club like Wrexham, shows interest in you once in your career, it's pretty big. If you've played in non-league when they're in the top tier of non-league, but for them to come knocking again, it's huge. And like I said, it was as tough a decision as it was to leave Altrincham. It was an absolute no-brainer for me to join Wrexham. I knew that I was joining a huge club again. The fans are the most passionate fans I've played for, and I know exactly how much it would mean to all those fans to replicate what I did in that title-winning season at Macclesfield, and that's what I'm looking to do this year.
Like I said, looking forward to sort of this season and looking towards it. Like I said before, lots of consecutive seasons in the National League. You'll be aware of that. Fans will be aware of that. All the other players will be. What sort of, based off signings you've seen, speaking to managers, people around the club, fans, stuff like that, even where possible, what do you think is realistic this season for Wrexham?
The squad that the Gaffer's put together is more than capable of winning the league, without a shadow of a doubt. Like I said, I don't think I would have left Altrincham if I didn't think, that the Gaffer was going to put together a squad that was capable of winning the league. I've obviously played in a National League winning side as well, and I see a lot of similarities in the squads. We're already turning into a close knit squad. We've not got huge numbers like you see some clubs have, and I think that's important. It basically just wants to install in us a hard working ethic, a hard working group that's going to go that extra mile, extra 2 mile for your mate. And like I say, I think that's vitally important. And I imagine every club would say, yeah, we can win the league, but I genuinely believe that this season Wrexham can aim for the top spot, and I don't see any reason why we can't get that.
I think Wrexham fans are quite buzzing by that now, quite happy you said that. And I do hope for Wrexham, because I know, listen, with my team I support, after you've had that so many years in the same league, a lot of the time down near the bottom, it is frustrating. So if someone comes along and says, yeah, we could win the league, top 6, whatever, then that sort of makes you dead happy. So I completely get that. I know if you do, because it would be good to see Wrexham back in sort of the Football League, and and Chester as well. Even upset the Wrexham fans there, but see lots of teams back, and also stuff like Stockport as well. Obviously, they made some interesting signings, and they're tipped to be up there as well. I might as well talk about, for what you've seen. Are there any other teams that you've seen, or other players that you've seen? Oh, he's quite a good player, where you're thinking, yeah, you might score a lot of goals and then help them. So like I said, you're saying you think you'll be near the top. Are there any other clubs you're seeing around that you'll think will be up there with you?
I think every season, like I say, there's probably 10 teams who will say, yeah, we can win it this season. And, out of those 10 teams, there's probably 6 that everybody else thinks will be there or thereabouts. But then, you always have 2 teams that are in and amongst it who nobody ever thinks would be. And then you always have sort of 1, maybe 2 teams that just come from nowhere towards the back end of the season. But, obviously looking at the teams, the players that teams have signed, obviously Stockport have had a new investor. So they've made some impressive signings. Dagenham, I think they're the same. They've obviously got a good manager in Daryl McMahon, and I think he'll be looking at top spot, if not promotion. And there's some of the big clubs still in there. Chesterfield, they're gonna want to look at going up. And obviously Macclesfield coming down. I'm not sure what financial situation they're in, but I'd like to think, after it being so fresh in their memory of getting promoted only a couple of years ago, I'd like to think that they'll want to replicate that again. But obviously my sole focus is on getting Wrexham promoted, and we're all fully focused on October the 3rd, and can't wait to get going back at the racecourse against Bournemouth. Now
I've got some questions from Twitter. So, favourite tattoo you have and why? Quite a tattoo guy.
So I've got quite a few tattoos, but my favourite one is I've got my 2 children on my left forearm. And obviously, if you're at games, you'll probably see that whenever I score, I'll kiss that left forearm. Like I said, it was I'm very close to as everybody is close to their kids, but I've been fortunate enough to be in a career that allows me to spend a lot of time with my with my children, and that's definitely my favourite tattoo.
Getting them trained up hopefully for future as well.
Yeah, I'm hoping little man will be better than me, and the sooner he's playing and earning millions, I can retire then.
I'll tell you what though, not only because you've got a dad or general family football, having the spare time where some parents do take it quite seriously. They do genuinely go out coaching. So
yeah.
And you sort of answered this before, but it's about Wrexham. What were your main reasons for coming back to Wrexham, and do you see yourself playing through the middle or out on the wing?
As simple as possible. I've always been the same. I'll play wherever required. I just want to play football. I want to score goals. I want to create goals. I want to be on a winning team. So whether I play through the middle, whether I play wide, I'll play wherever I'm asked to play, and I'll give 110% every single week. In terms of why did I go back there, as I said, it's the biggest club that I've played for in my career, and it was probably the only club that I've not really had any success at. I don't think I've got anything to prove to anybody at the football club. I think any fan who doesn't know anything about me will probably look back over the last couple of years and see that I've made a success out of wherever I've been. And, I want to go back there and do it in front of the passionate fans that Wrexham have. And, I want to do it this season as well.
Yep. Now off Twitter, but just on general questions. Best stadium you've ever played at?
Well, I wasn't involved, but we lost in a trophy final for Wrexham at Wembley. So I did get to do. I'd just coming back from injury, so I got to do the warm up and that at Wembley, which was great. And then I was on we had an FA Cup run with Wrexham the first time I was there, and we played at Stoke, which was good, top stadium. And then obviously again I always seem to be injured for these games, but we the Carabao Cup for Macclesfield, we played West Ham. We won't talk about the result, but we played West Ham, and yeah, that stadium was amazing.
Must be something with our guests and playing in the League Cup against West Ham, because Jeff King we did a few weeks ago. He played in the League Cup against West Ham, so there must be something genuine. I didn't. That's no sort of me. That's genuine coincidence. Hopefully, I'll have a look. Any other guys who follow the account, if you played against West Ham, we'll get them on. So you said best ground. What about worst ground?
Oh, I've like I say, I've knocked about in some lower league, in the lower tiers of non-league. So I've played at some interesting grounds, if you like. I can't really remember who's the worst, and I probably never would say who was the worst. But like I said, there's been some stadiums that I won't miss going back there again, if you like.
Yeah, you sometimes get that bit, sort of sometimes like 100 years old, a bit sort of
Yeah,
mismatch and stuff like that.
yeah.
Bit of a different question, maybe we can see from sort of your record, you've always sort of played northwest sort of thing, Staffordshire, Lancashire, that type of area, and Wales as well. For the Wrexham fans have a go. But no, Wrexham. I mean, it's in Wales, but it's sort of very close to sort of northwest. Sort of like sort of the cousin, if you like, for England. Was there any sort of opportunity? And obviously you got family and all that type of thing, where you got an opportunity from sort of teams down south or something like that, perhaps London or whatever, that you could have, that would have been a better move, perhaps financially or in terms of playing time with a club, but because of perhaps family reasons or whatever, you weren't able to do that.
I had a lot of interest when I was at Hensford. Before I moved to Wrexham, the year before, the couple of years leading up to before I left Hensford and joined Wrexham, there was a lot of interest from a lot of clubs all over the country. But the under-24 Bosman rule sort of put a lot of people off at the time, because to take a punt on a lad in non-league, it was quite unheard of. And because I'd had quite a lot of success at Hensford, I think they saw me as quite a big asset, and they probably asked for a little bit more than what they were ever likely to get. So I did have opportunities with clubs that were like I say, all over the country. Some were down south, but no, it's just always seemed to be the way that it's been. And apart from York, I've always been based at home, which has been nice.
Sort of back to some of the more sort of not serious ones, but sort of best player you've ever played with, and I mean sort of on your team.
So the best player I've played with is I've played with some unbelievable players, but the best player that I've played with is probably Jamie Osborne, who's at Solihull Moors. I played with him at Hensford for years, and he probably got me my move. He used to win a penalty every single week, and I'd just score the penalty, and it was like, oh, Durrell scored again. But anybody that came to watch would realise that Ozzy was just mental. Like, what he can do on a football pitch is frightening. That, like I say, that Hensford team was we had some real good players. Shane Dunkley, who's gone on to play for playing in the Championship with Wigan. He's just moved to Sheffield Wednesday. Top player. But obviously the way that I play, I like to create and score goals, and Jamie was pretty special at doing that.
And I guess sort of final question. We've said what you want to sort of do with Wrexham this season, but just generally in future football, like I said, you've had that time where I'm not going to say coming to end of your career, I'm not going to say that, but you've had a good chunk of your career. Are you sort of thinking, I imagine you want to get back to sort of League Two, you said you want to get promoted, so you want League Two type of things. What are you sort of thinking now? Have you ever thought, it's not going to last forever, and there is going to be a point when you're not going to be able to improve anymore, and you're going to, without, as I said before, you're going to lose pace and you're going to start sliding down a bit. Is that something you thought about, perhaps coaching or something like that?
Yeah, obviously I'll look at doing my coaching badges in the next couple of years. I don't think any footballer wants to think about not playing, but as you say, it's only natural. It comes to everybody. But yeah, I'll look at doing my coaching badges, because I don't see my life without football at the moment. But obviously I'm still fit. I don't feel like a 31-year-old. I still think that I play like a young flair player, if you like. So I'm hoping that if I look after myself, I've still got a couple of years left in me, and like you say, I still have ambitions to go and play in the Football League again. And, I still want to go and have a couple of seasons in the Football League if I can, because having tasted it with Macclesfield, I know I'm capable of playing at that level. I proved that I can do it. And, I just want to go on and do it again.
I guess also, and we've sort of seen this sometimes with players who sort of turn professional, not at sort of 18, 19 or 20, but like I said it was like 25 or 26 for you, that sometimes those players, they peak later on. So perhaps when, they're getting to 30, it's almost like they're 27. So that might be something in your favour. But
absolutely.
It's all about, I guess, the manager knowing that, because sometimes, and I don't think I'm the first person to say this, that there is a bit of, I don't know what the word is, but sort of maybe like prejudice with like age and stuff like that, where perhaps, he looks too old, but if you actually looked at him, he runs and plays like he's 5 years younger. So I guess it's sort of just about look of the manager sort of looking at you, not knowing your age or anything like that, and then saying, okay, we'll sign him. But
just looking at the way you play. Yeah. Well, I heard an interview with Joey Barton on Twitter probably 5 weeks ago, and he said that, you can have experienced players in your team that still have focus and drive to go and play at a higher level than they've ever played at before. And just because of their age, it doesn't mean that they won't do that. And it like I say, it was an interview that sort of just made alarm bells ring with me, and I thought, you know what, that's the sort of manager that you'd probably want to go and play for. I can't remember what the exact words were, but it was something along those lines. And they said, have you got players that want to go on and play on a better level? And he said, look, I've signed someone who's 32, and he still wants to, wants to go on and have a solid couple of years. So, it doesn't matter what your age you are, as long as you look after yourself. I'd like to think that I've got a couple more years left in me yet.
All right, hopefully, mate, it's the final question. We'll ask you to do a little bit of a message for the Wrexham fans, because I think most of the Wrexham fans will be watching this. You could go back through your career. Could be any point. If you could sort of change one game, one result or something, perhaps to sort of change your career, that you think would, if you change that result, would make your career better, what game would you change?
It's a tough one, really. It's quite a tough question. Might have to leave you short on that one. Yeah, I'm not sure. Because I don't think there's any specific game where I've not performed that may have affected my career at a certain club or anything like that. No, I'm not sure on that one.
There we go. Sure. It's a new question I thought up. I'm going to ask to every single one, because it's a bit of a difficult question that gets you properly thinking. So we'll get some interesting answers, hopefully, even if some people can't. Last thing before you go, message to Wrexham fans who will be watching this about just general this season, and obviously support even where possible, obviously.
Obviously, it's great to be back. As I said, it was a no-brainer for me to come back. There's obviously, it's probably not going to be as simple and as straightforward as the fans would like, but there'll be bumps and that in the league. But rest assured, we'll be giving everything that we've got to get the club back where they rightly belong.
There we go. Right, thanks for taking your time out. Like I said, I mentioned this before. You can check out the full sort of more Macclesfield orientated one that James did last year. We'll leave that link in the description. Thanks for taking time out. Maybe have a chat with you in a year. Wrexham got promoted, hopefully.